Yo, what's going on, YouTube? Welcome to Fresh Review. Now, you're new to the channel. We show plenty of highlights that are absolutely crazy, like the one you see in the background. And we review each and every game of the 2024 NFL season. This is our Week 9 video, and we're starting with the Thursday night game, which was the Houston Texans taking on the New York Jets. Now, this game was a must-win game for the Jets, and the Jets did win. They were the home team here. Aaron Rodgers threw for 3 touchdowns, so he's responsible for all 3 TDs that the Jets scored. Joe Mixon ran the ball really well. He had over 100 yards on the ground. Tank Dell stepped up. This is the first game without Stephon Diggs. Nico Collins still out with a hamstring injury. So would Tank Dell be able to go back to form like how he was last year? He was. He goes over 100 receiving yards. But the star of the game here has to be Garrett Wilson, who had 2 spectacular one-handed catches that resulted in TDs. One was a nice just reach out, grab it one hand, and then run into the end zone. The other one, oh my goodness. You see on the thumbnail, he is our cover athlete, and he is go-go gadget stretching like Stretch Armstrong to reach back and pluck the ball out of the sky. And then it's like, did he get in bounds? Yes, his shin got in bounds. Most of his body was out of bounds when he landed, but the shin touched down first. A spectacular catch. Now, on the thumbnail, I might say better than Odell, best catch ever, whatever the case may be. I ain't finna gas it up like that. I'm trying to get you to click on the video. It was a spectacular catch, but it was all that. But oh my goodness, definitely one of the best catches you will ever see. And this was a really good game. Had some good highlights, good action. I'm giving it a 79 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game. And this was the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Atlanta Falcons. And in this game, Dak Prescott did, in fact, get hurt. And I'm recording this video a few weeks after the fact. And Dak Prescott might be getting season-ending surgery on his hamstring. I expect for him to be out for a long time. He is on IR currently. So he gets the surgery, he'd be out for the rest of the season. I think the Cowboys' chances of making the playoffs are completely gone. Interestingly enough, Ezekiel Elliott, who I thought was a horrible pickup when the Cowboys got him, I actually enjoyed it as an Eagles fan. Like, yes, I'm glad you guys brought back Zeke. Uh, he got disciplined for missing practices and stuff like that, so he didn't travel with the team this week. Rico Dowdle maintained the starting role, which you expected. Dalvin Cook was the backup. Rico Dowdle had the spectacular bobble catch when Dak had to make defenders miss. It was an ultimate highlight play. Plenty of highlights this week. And I haven't got to the best highlight of the week yet. But Rico Dowdle had a great catch here. So that resulted in a TD. He's been solid for them this season. This game he had 100 total yards and that receiving TD. On the flip side, we got the Falcons. Kirk Cousins is really good this game. He threw for 3 passing TDs. Bijan Robinson was great this game. He is scoring a lot of TDs. This is the first game he didn't score a TD in a while. But he had well over 140 total yards, 7 catches this game, so he is still very productive. The wideouts, Kirk Cousins did a really good job spreading the ball around. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and Ray McLeod all scored a TD this game. Now, CeeDee Lamb also got injured. He injured his shoulder, and he was good to go in Week 10. And, full disclaimer, I did see Week 10. I am behind. I was feeling really sick, and I was out of town for a while. So that's why I'm running behind. I'm trying to catch back up. So I'm going to pretend like I didn't see Week 10. So let's see if Cooper Rush can do what he did a couple years ago filling in for Dak. Or Trey Lance will get the start. I'm curious to see what Mike McCarthy does there. Yes, I do know exactly what happened in that next game. I can't wait to talk about the Week 10 games. And I know you can't wait to hear me talk about it. So be sure to subscribe and like this video so I can go ahead and get that out for you guys. But this Falcons Cowboy game I thought was above average. I'm giving it a 62 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game, which is the Miami Dolphins take on the Buffalo Bills. I thought this was a must-win game for the Dolphins here. They got Tua back. You want to catch your stride here. They fell way behind than what I expected them to be right now at this point in the season. The Bills are so far ahead of this division where the Bills pretty much have the division on lock. The Dolphins are fighting for a playoff spot. So Tua's back, and I want to talk about this. I'm not really trying to be biased and stuff, but I have Jalen Waddle in a fantasy league. And when I say this man had 0 catches for a majority of this game, that's actually a crime against humanity. And then, so he scores a TD. Then he gets another catch at the end of the game after the Bills get in field goal range, and Tyler Bass hits his game-winning field goal from 61 yards. I didn't think he was finna hit it. I thought we were going to overtime. They do hook and laterals. Jalen Waddle happens to get the ball last. It runs 20 yards back. So this man finished with negative receiving yards. Like, I'm just baffled. How you score a TD and finish with negative receiving yards? You do not see that often. I don't know when the last time that happened. But Tyreek Hill, he's doing okay with Tua being back. But Tyreek Hill was an Offensive Player of the Year candidate last year before he got hurt. Maybe even the front runner ahead of McCaffrey before he got hurt and missed a week, and then he came back and it wasn't the same. It's kind of been tough to watch this Miami's Dolphins. Tua's like spreading the ball around really well. He went 25 of 28, so it wasn't like Tua was bad, but 231 yards. Normally they're more explosive. Normally the targets are more funneled through Waddle and Tyreek. I don't know if that's defenses figuring out Mike McDaniel's system or trying to take away his players. But this offense does not look nearly as dynamic. Maybe it's because they like to run the ball a whole lot this year. Achane, Mostert, Wright, they utilize those guys really well. Achane was really solid this game through the air and on the ground. He goes for 120 total yards and 2 touchdowns, 1 through the air and 1 on the ground. But that's enough about the Dolphins. Let's go ahead and go into the winning team, which is the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is in that MVP conversation, in my opinion. You have to have him in that. He goes for 3 total touchdowns here. Ray Davis filled in for James Cook a couple weeks ago. He has another good game here. Has 2 catches, 1 for a touchdown, a really big play. So, yeah, 70 total receiving yards there. And then Khalil Shakir is the number 1 wideout for these guys, without a doubt. Amari Cooper missed this game, and Keon Coleman also got hurt this game. But this man, Khalil Shakir, is like Josh Allen's safety blanket. His completion percentage when Josh Allen targets him for like the past 2 years got to be close to 90%. It's outrageous how consistent this duo is. But overall, I thought this game was spectacular, a game of the year candidate. I'm giving it a 99 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game. That is the Bengals taking on the Raiders. Now, Chase Brown was the lead back this whole game. They did just trade for Khalil Herbert, but Zach Moss was out and Khalil Herbert just got there, so I'm not sure how accustomed he was to the playbook or anything like that. Chase Brown got like 90% of the workload. He had 27 carries, 120 yards. Great game here for Chase Brown. He also caught a TD, had 5 catches, 37 yards. Mike Gesicki caught 2 TDs this game. He had 100 total yards on 5 catches. One of these like a blown coverage on an RPO. He streaked down the seam wide open or something. I don't know how that happened. But overall, the Bengals really dominant. Joe Burrow was a candidate to get the cover athlete. He had 5 TDs. If he got one more, I might have gave it to him. So he is a potential guy. With that being said, since I feel like I snubbed the Bengals by not getting to Burrow, because I think Burrow did have a better game than Garrett Wilson, all things considered. And same thing with another wide receiver I'll talk about later. I will try to look forward to giving those teams a cover athlete in the future. But that's enough about the Bengals. They look really solid here. Trey Henderson had 4 sacks, so career high for him. Now, for the Raiders, Gardner Minshew played this game, or at least he started this game. And Desmond Ridder finished it, so I don't know exactly what all that's about. But running back-wise, their running backs are madly inefficient. They got nothing going on the ground. Wide receiver-wise, they have 2 reliable pass catchers. It's Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. So Bowers scores a TD this game. Myers goes over 100 receiving yards. But you're the Raiders. You're tanking for Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. You're trying to get a running back here. A quarterback in the draft because Lord knows you need it. Overall, I thought this was a below-average game. I'm giving it a 43 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game, which is the Los Angeles Chargers take on the Cleveland Browns. And I expected the Browns to look way better than what they did this game. Nick Chubb just has not been able to get anything going on the ground, really. And, it's tough coming back from that injury he had. He was such an efficient runner where he's like a 5 yards per carry guy for most of his career. But now you look at Nick Chubb, and it's like 2 yards per carry now. So you hate to see it. Jameis Winston threw 46 pass attempts this game. That's not really what you want to see, but they were down most of the game. So trying to pass to get back, especially with the run being inefficient. Wide receiver wise, Cedric Tillman and Jerry Jeudy both look solid here. They both go over 70 yards, and Cedric Tillman gets a receiving TD. So Cedric Tillman might be the best wide receiver for this team. And speaking of wideouts, let's go to the other team, the LA Chargers, who I thought personally, Quentin Johnston might have been a bust last year and stuff. I didn't like him coming out of the draft. I didn't want to label him a bust so quick into his career. So, I kind of held off on saying it. But he looked really good this season. He looked really good this game. He goes for over 100 yards and he gets a receiving TD. Ladd McConkey, another first-round pick they got this year. So, Ladd was taken in the 2024 draft. QJ was taken in the 2023 draft. Ladd leads the team in receptions again, so he's been the target hog of this offense. He's been really solid. He looks like he's the truth. So even J.K. Dobbins, and they could be getting Gus Edwards back next week. So J.K. Dobbins looks good this game. He goes for 100 total yards. A lot of dudes, wrote him off after he had all these injuries. So I didn't see anything after the game, but I wonder how Dobbins and Chubb interacted with each other after the game, because they both can relate in that sense of getting injuries and maybe having the team write you off and not sure you're wanted by the team and stuff like that, because Dobbin left the Ravens and stuff, or the Ravens didn't want him after the injuries he suffered. And now Chubb's gone through the same thing again, and they both been injured multiple times to their knees and stuff. So it's a battle mentally and physically for those boys. So I wonder how they interacted after the game, if they did. But overall, I thought this was a bad game. A really bad game, actually. I'm going to give it a 24 out of 100. Now, going on to our next game, which is the New England Patriots take on the Tennessee Titans, and this game did go to overtime. Mason Rudolph continues to fill in for the injured Will Levis. Mason Rudolph goes for a really good game here. He goes for 240 passing yards and a couple TDs. Tony Pollard on the ground goes for over 128 rushing yards. There's no Tajay Spears this game, so he got 28 carries. They fed Tony Pollard really well. And Rudolph did a really good job spreading the ball out to everybody. On the flip side, we got the New England Patriots. Their rookie third overall pick, Drake May, goes for 200 yards as well and a passing TD. But the interesting thing is he runs for 95 rushing yards this game. So I didn't expect for him to be that dynamic with his legs coming out of college. I knew he could move, but I didn't expect for this man to nearly go for 100 rushing yards in the game. So that's Drake May. He's looking really solid even though they lost this game. There's really nothing they did on the run game this whole game besides Drake May. Because Ramondre Stevenson, although he scored a touchdown, he had 10 carries for 16 yards, so that's madly inefficient. But he also got a receiving TD this game. So he scored both of their touchdowns. But that receiving TD came on the final play of regulation when the Patriots needed it. Drake May's running around. He's buying as much time as possible. I didn't even know time was on sale. This man's buying all the time in the world. It's buy one, get one on time, apparently. I didn't get the memo. But he's buying as much time as he possibly can. He's about to get tackled. He just throws something up. He finds Ramondre Stevenson, who makes a catch. Gets tackled immediately in the end zone and stuff, but holds on to it. And instead of going for two, they decide to take the PAT. So, hindsight's always 20/20 in that scenario. Let me know what you guys would have done. Emmanuel Acho tweeted out, if you're the road team, you go for two. If you're the home team, you go for one. So the Patriots were the road team here. According to Emmanuel Acho's logic, they should have went for two and went for the game winner. Instead, they elected to go to overtime. The Titans got the ball first. They went down, kicked the field goal, and then Drake May turned it over. So that's how they ended up losing that. Drake May's second interception of the game. And it went to overtime. Spectacular play at the end. But these are two teams that really aren't playing for playoff things. So I can't really give an amazing score, but I will give it a truly great of an 89. If there's better stakes and stuff at the end and, more action throughout between better players and performances and stuff like that, this guy got a higher grade. But still, truly was a great game. So 89 out of 100. Now on to our next game, which is the Washington Commanders take on the New York Giants. In this game, starting with the New York Giants, Daniel Jones passes for 2 TDs and he rushes for a TD. So not a bad game for Daniel Jones. Tyrone Tracy got a bulk of the workload yet again here. Devin Singletary seems like he has lost his job as the lead back in New York. Now, wide receiver wise, Malik Neighbors leads the team in targets yet again. He gets 9 catches, 59 yards. So most of the offense is funneled through Tracy and Neighbors. Those seem like the two playmakers for for this team. Now on the flip side, we got Jaden Daniels, the rookie sensation. He goes for 2 passing TDs. Both of these go to Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin had 2 catches for 19 yards and 2 receiving TDs. So both those catches were TDs. They got the lead most of the game. They held on to it. And the Giants fought back to try to make it competitive, but it really wasn't too entertaining. For the running back for Washington, Brian Robinson Jr. was out again. So Austin Eckler was the starting running back, but he split the carries 50-50 with Chris Rodriguez Jr. So the offense still a solid without Brian Robinson, but I think with Brian Robinson there, I think the offense does look better, especially when it comes to their read option game and stuff like that and running between the tackles. I think this Washington Commander team is still a really good team, and we will end up playing them in a couple weeks. I'm an Eagles fan, just so you guys know. In a couple weeks, and probably for the division lead whenever we play them. So that should be a very entertaining game. This game was not that entertaining though. I'm going to give it an above average grade of 63 out of 100. Now, on to our next game, which is another divisional matchup. The New Orleans Saints take on the Carolina Panthers. Derek Carr is playing for the New Orleans Saints now, so he has returned from his injury. He was much better than Spencer Rattler, but that still didn't stop Michael Thomas from running all over this man. Derek Carr, for some reason, though, I will not lie. On fourth down, he did decide to throw a contested goal ball up. It was 4th and 1. You only need 1 yard. It's game on the line. I don't know what you're thinking throwing that low percentage pass. I'm not sure anything else is open, but you got to try something better than that, in my opinion. But after the game, Michael Thomas, his former teammate, let him have it. He threw Chris Olave a hospital ball that got Chris Olave put on IR. That's unfortunate. And Alvin Kamara is trying his hardest. He's like one of the shining bright spots on offense. Him and Taysom Hill, you could say. Alvin Kamara goes for over 200 total yards on 35 total touches. So, I mean, he's trying, but that's about it for the Saints offense. On the flip side, we got the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young is starting this game in place of Andy Dalton after Andy Dalton was in the car accident. I'm not sure they decided just to go back to Bryce Young since they're losing and stuff anyways. But Bryce Young wins this game for the Carolina Panthers. He puts together a game-winning drive. Chuba Hubbard punches in the touchdown, but Bryce Young did lead them down the field. Chuba Hubbard goes for 2 TDs this game, and after this game, he gets signed to a big contract. So the Panthers give this man a 4-year deal, which I think is odd, considering it's mid-season you're doing it, and you haven't seen your second-round running back play yet, Jonathan Brooks. In my opinion, you want to see how good Jonathan Brooks is looking before you sign Chuba Hubbard, because there's a chance Chuba's the backup. You're signing a backup running back to 4 years. I mean, Chuba's nice and all, but is he David Montgomery nice, in my opinion? He has been balling this year, so I can't take anything away from Chuba. But Jatavion Sanders, the rookie tight end, gets 4 catches, 87 yards. Jalen Coker and Xavier Legette, their other rookies, also do okay here. Coker gets a pair of catches, and Legette gets 4 catches, 33 yards, and a touchdown. So Bryce Young goes for 1 TD, 171 yards. Not horrible, but leads his team to victory. You'd like to see it as a Panther fan. He got as many wins this year as he did last year. So, and that's like in a fraction of the time played. So that's a good thing to hear. Overall, though, I thought this game was a great game. I'm giving it an 84 out of 100. Now, we're going on to our next game, which is the Denver Broncos take on the Baltimore Ravens. Oh, my goodness. I was talking about karma last week. The Denver Broncos doing fake field goals on the Carolina Panthers when they're up by multiple TDs late in the fourth quarter or whatever. It's like, are we really doing this right now? This is karma. The Broncos got the break speed off of them. The Ravens flew high. They won this game 41-10. Lamar Jackson continues to show why he's the MVP front runner, and it's not even close. Derrick Henry yet again goes for over 100 rushing yards. Zay Flowers goes for 127 receiving yards and 2 receiving TDs. I forgot to mention Derrick Henry also had 2 rushing TDs, and then Lamar threw for 3 total TDs, and he only had 3 incompletions. So, I mean, Lamar just does what he does. And I'm expecting to see an absolute classic this Thursday night. The Ravens versus Bengals. The last time these teams played, it was a classic. One of the games of the year. Will the next time be better? It's gonna be hard to top the first time, but every time these teams usually get together, it's fireworks. So we'll have to see. Now, on the flip side, we got the Broncos. Bo Nix doesn't go for a passing TD this game, but he actually does catch a TD pass on a pass from Cortland Sutton. So it seemed like a Philly special play, and Bo Nix went up and got it. He went up and snatched it, kind of mossed the guy. But that's the only touchdown they had this game. And Sean Payton had these boys playing late into the fourth quarter trying to get a garbage time TD for some morale boost or whatever. It didn't matter. The Ravens didn't even go for it. And the Ravens defense isn't even like that. So I was kind of disappointed in Bo's performance this game. They really didn't get anything going as a team here. The rushing game was okay, but Cortland Sutton had 7 catches, 122 yards. But other than that, they got nothing going. I thought this was a really bad game. I'm giving it a 21 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game. And that is the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this, I think, had the play of the week. So I'm watching the game at my boy's house. We're talking and stuff. And, when I'm talking to somebody, of course, you make eye contact. So I got the game in one eye, got my boy in the other eye. We're talking, whatever. And I see Saquon make one dude miss. Now I see him make another dude miss. And I'm looking at everything. I had to turn my attention and look at the whole game. And he hit a backwards hurdle. And I about near lost my mind. I had my boy Mike on the grill. He's cooking some ribs and stuff. I'm like, yo, Mike, you got to come see this, man. Forget about the ribs. You burn the house down. Hey, don't even worry about it. You got to see this play. This man Saquon did something I didn't even know was humanly possible. They should have stopped the game and drug tested this man in the center of the field. Because, oh my goodness, when he did that, that is the play of the year in my opinion. Because that's insane. Now, I would have had him on the cover athlete, but I already used him in week 1. And he also fumbled this game. And to me, that fumble was atrocious. One of the worst calls I ever seen. Because in the review, you can see he got tripped. And then he fell down. His elbow's down. Then the ball comes out. It's obvious as day. They review it. And then the dude, the Shield Jeans, I don't know how to say his last name. But the dude that's the former referee, he gets paid by the NFL to just come out there and agree with the refs and stuff. He's like, yeah, he's obviously tripped up here. Then they say, no, the call stands. Well, actually, they didn't think the contact was substantial. Now we're just making stuff up, Gene. Are you kidding me right now? But whatever, that's about that. Jahan Dotson also had a spectacular catch where he's bobbling over a defender and mossing him. And oh my goodness, there's some crazy highlights in this game. Even the perfectly thrown deep ball that Jalen Hurts threw to Devontae Smith down the center of the field was a great one. So, Hurts goes for 3 total TDs this game. Hurts has been an MVP level player since the bye week. So since he got A.J. Brown back after the bye week and the Eagles been getting healthy and stuff, Eagles at full power, I think, is definitely a top 5 team in the league. And, you could even make a case for maybe even top 3 or so. I don't know. But Saquon here, 159 rushing yards, nearly 200 yards total. He is 1 yard shy. So, 199 yards and 2 total TDs. So, great game here for Saquon. On the flip side, we go over to the Jaguars, and Tank Bigsby gets more workload than Travis Etienne this game. So, I'm curious to see who's the number 1 running back this game. For this team, because Travis Etienne did get the start, but Bigsby got a bigger workload. And they both been banged up and are limited in practice over and over. So I don't know if they're doing this because precautionary reasons or because Bigsby's better at game script. I'm not sure exactly why they're changing it up. But T-Law did get hurt this game, so Trevor Lawrence wasn't having a great game, but he did end up getting hurt. So Mac Jones will begin to start next week. And I think they might deactivate Trevor Lawrence for the season or at least sit him out for the bye week. There's no need to rush your franchise quarterback that you paid the bag to. Rush him out there and have him get a long-term injury to his shoulder. Even though it's not his throwing shoulder, still, you don't want him to get hurt long-term. But receiving-wise, none of these players really do much. So the Jaguars don't do much, but they do get that defensive touchdown that put them back in the game. So I'm going with a really good score here because the referees make this game closer than what it really should have been. And there are some phenomenal highlight plays in here. Really good score, 79 out of 100. And we're going on to our next game, which is The Chicago Bears take on the Arizona Cardinals, which is far from a really good game. Very disappointed at Caleb Williams here. Now, some dudes would say it's the OC or whatever. The OC is fired. Right, he wasn't fired during this game, but now as I record this, the OC has been fired. So I'm curious to see if Caleb improves for the rest of the season, what progress he makes. But I mean, he only had like what 5 yards per attempt this game, right? 41 pass attempts, 217 yards isn't great. DeAndre Swift wasn't great this game either. Roma Dunze was though. He had 100 receiving yards, but other than that, there's nothing really going here for this Bears offense. There's this play where DJ Moore got off the field early. I don't know if it's because he accidentally stepped out of bounds or he just gave up on the play. I don't know what's going on in Chicago, but it's not looking very good. Their defense is still solid, but that's what makes it interesting that their defense got gashed here by James Conner on the ground. Conner goes for 100 yards. They give up this Imari DeMercado, like a run play. The Cardinals tried to run again the field goal range right before halftime. But those men run into the end zone. Like, that's not what Coach drew up, I'm pretty sure. So they let that happen. Then they let Trey Benson get a TD. Then they let Trey McBride get a rushing TD. So they gave up 3 rushing TDs, and none of them were to James Conner or Kyler Murray. The Cardinals were out here giving out rushing TDs to dudes that don't even get rushing TDs. Right? So, I mean, they're just wilding out here. Kyler Murray didn't even have to do anything. This man might have just been like, the man could have stayed home and played COD. Right? So, the Bears defense didn't show up this game. The Bears offense didn't show up this game. Very disappointing game overall for the Bears, who also had a safety on them. So, I mean, when you get a safety on you as well, I mean, it's just an awful game. So, I'm giving this one an 18 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next one, which is the Detroit Lions take on the Green Bay Packers. Now, the most interesting thing about this game is this is the Lions' first game that they are not in a dome. And they won't go outdoors until week 15 or 16 until they play Chicago in Soldier Field. So they are in a dome right now. They are in the dome for the first like 7-8 weeks, and now they're in the dome for the next 7 weeks or so, however many games it is. But the Lions, Dan Campbell after the game said, "Hey, we travel well, man. You know, we play in a dome, but we can play outdoors, indoors, cold games, hot games, it doesn't matter." Because what do the Lions do? They run the ball really well. Sonic and Knuckles, a.k.a. Jahmyr Gibbs, and David Montgomery go for 150 total yards combined in the rushing TD. St. Brown gets another receiving TD. So I think he now tied the franchise record for most TDs in a row, right? Well, most games with a TD. I think it's a 5 or 6 game streak. I think he tied it, so he gets one next week. I think he surpasses it. And this is a spectacular TD. And the celebration is just as crazy. He does a headstand where this man is like on his head, vertical. It looks like the Shawn Michaels cell. You guys ever seen the picture of Shawn Michaels selling the move or whatever? Where it's like this man's upside down, 180 degrees, vertical. Like, it's like, what are you doing, bro? What are you on? But St. Brown, spectacular turnaround catch on 4th down, clutch play by them, aggressive play call there by Dan Campbell to go for it. And you know, I kind of thought this TD streak that St. Brown's on, like, dang, I'm kind of surprised Calvin doesn't have a higher one. But normally you would double team and triple team Calvin Johnson. Unless you're the Cowboys. You just let Calvin Johnson do whatever he wants on you. But that's enough for the Lions there. We go to the flip side. We got the Green Bay Packers. Jaden Reed goes for 100 receiving yards hit again this game. None of the other Green Bay Packers wideouts did too much because Jordan Love spread the ball out really well. But he didn't throw a passing TD to any Green Bay Packers, but he did throw one to a Detroit Lion. Kirby Joseph got a pick 6 here. And on the ground, Emmanuel Wilson and Josh Jacobs both averaged 7 yards per carry, so they're super efficient in this game. But the Packers have found themselves in too deep of a hole, and they just kind of climbed their way back. So for a game that was, you know, division stakes on the line, this game really did disappoint. I'm going to give it a slightly below average grade of a 47 out of 100. Now we go to our next game, which was the game of the week, in my opinion. Definitely a candidate. And it was the Rams taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Now, there is another cover athlete candidate here, and I think JSN did have a better game than Garrett Wilson. So, JSN finishes the game with 7 catches, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. Geno Smith threw for 363 yards and 3 TDs, but he threw 2 picks. Both were in the red zone, and one was a 100-yard pick six to Kitchens. I think his name's Cam Kitchens, rookie that the Rams drafted, and the other pick was also to Cam Kitchens. So this man Geno Smith might have had Cam Kitchens in this dynasty league, like defensive players one. I don't know what was going on with Geno, man. Geno Smith and the Seahawks in the red zone these past few weeks, man. It's been tough to watch. And what makes it so frustrating, they started off this season 3-0. And, I mean, they're 1-5 since then. So you hate to see that. But this was a must-win game, I felt like. At home, you're up most of the game. And to trick this game off, man, you hate to do it. Kenneth Walker, though, he goes for over 100 total yards. So he got a lot of volume this game. Couldn't get a fourth down conversion in overtime when they needed him. So that gave the Rams a chance to get the ball back. So they got the ball back in overtime. And then Matthew Stafford throws a perfect ball to Demarcus Robinson, who catches the game-winning TD one-handed in the end zone. He scored both of their receiving TDs. Both of the offensive TDs for the Rams went to Demarcus Robinson. Stafford throws for nearly 300 yards, 298 to be exact, 2 passing TDs. Kyron doesn't score a TD this game. I think one of my homeboys bet on Kyron to score a TD, and Kyron's normally good money for a TD. The one time he bets on Kyron to score a TD, he doesn't score a TD. So you hate to see that. But overall, amazing game. Cooper Kupp goes for 100 yards. Puka Nakua got tossed out, so I'm going to need Puka to get his stuff together and bounce back next week. You can't miss a quarter or a third of the season due to injury, then get yourself tossed out in a game because you just being a bonehead and stuff. You got to get together, Puka, all right? You had one of the best rookie seasons ever. I don't want to call it a sophomore slump, but it's a sophomore slumping something, you feel me? It's a sophomore something. Now, I thought this game was absolutely spectacular. I'm giving it a 99 out of 100. This could definitely be a Game of the Year candidate. You could see this be an honorable mention or even make my top 10 games of the year list. I think it starts off slow, but it definitely picks up and gets better and better as the game goes on. Now, on to the first primetime game. That was the Colts taking on the Vikings. And in this game, Justin Jefferson showed up. He showed out. He goes for 137 receiving yards. He even throws a pass this game. He had a 22-yard completion. Sam Darnold had a really good game here. He was responsible for the Vikings, all three of the Vikings touchdowns. He also threw a pick here, but he goes for nearly 300 passing yards, 304 total yards. You count the rushing, so he has a solid game here. Joe Flacco filled in for Anthony Richardson, and Anthony Richardson probably would have been better this game. And it's interesting because how do you want to play the Vikings? Do you want to give them, because their defense is very problematic for a lot of people. So do you bring in the veteran or do you start the mobile quarterback, right? Which is tougher for the Vikings to game plan for since they don't practice against the mobile quarterback. So, hindsight's always 2020. Anthony Richardson might have been better this game against the Vikings. Flacco was not great this game whatsoever. The game came down to the wire, but the Vikings got a TD that extended the lead to 2 possessions, and had pretty much the game winner with about 2 minutes left. So that settled the game there. But I thought this was a really good game. Nevertheless, I'm giving it a 76 out of 100. Now, we're going on to our next game, which was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. This is a Super Bowl rematch from a few years ago. But, the teams are kind of different because the Bucs don't have Tom Brady, of course, but they also don't even have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, who both are out this game due to injury. On the flip side, the Chiefs don't have their best wide receiver, Rasheed Rice, but they did get DeAndre Hopkins, who they got right before the trade deadline, and D-Hop played great this game. He had 8 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Travis Kelce, Mr. Swift, had 100 receiving yards, 14 catches, the best game of the season in my opinion for him. Great game here. Mahomes goes for 3 passing TDs, nearly 300 passing yards. So the Chiefs look really good here. They win this game in overtime. Kareem Hunt gets the game-winning TD by running in. He had 100 rushing yards himself. So great game here by the Chiefs star players. But there's a little bit of a concern here because Xavier Worthy finished with negative total yards. He had 2 rushes for negative 10 yards and 0 catches this game. So their first-round pick has not been looking that great. You thought with the opportunity being there, with Rasheed Rice being out, he'd be able to step up. He's kind of been really disappointing. On the flip side, we got Baker Mayfield. While his wide receivers, Baker Mayfield is still out there dealing. He's leading these boys. Very competitive game here. Cade Otton does step up. He goes for 8 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. And then in the rushing department, unlike the Chiefs who just rely upon Kareem Hunt to do most of the carrying, they did a 3-headed backfield here with Bucky Irving, Rashad White, and Sean Tucker all getting touches. So I'm curious to see if they continue that dynamic in the backfield. That's a interesting problem to have. They don't have any running back that's elite, but I mean they have 3 that can all contribute in different types of ways. So the Bucks unfortunately weren't able to get this game. Kind of a much needed game for the Bucks here. They're a really solid team, but without their star players, it's tough to go into Arrowhead and beat the best team in the league. They came up just short, but this has to be encouraging if you're a Bucks fan. And this game did go to overtime, so the Bucks definitely had a chance to win this game. And let me know you guys why I went for 2 there. Me personally, as a Madden player, I'm going for 2 every time right there. I'm trying to win the game in regulation. I don't want to go to overtime and have a coin toss reflect on winning or losing. I would have went for it, but the Bucks decide to kick the PAT. They don't get the ball in overtime. They lose to Mahomes. Nevertheless, though, I thought this was a spectacular game. I give it a 99 out of 100. That will conclude this video. So I'm going to show you guys what my offense and defense is looking like. You guys will see after these games, I sold most of my team, got a whole bunch of coins. So my team will be changed drastically in the upcoming weeks. I just went on a crazy shopping spree, but as always, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. I hope to see you guys on the next one.